Is EV insurance really any more expensive? I'm going to put it to the test using my own real world data, and this will only be a little snapshot because, of course, insurance is highly variable, but I hope it will give you an idea. My details: I'm in my late 30s, I've got no endorsements, never had any points on my license, never had any claims, 20 years NCB. I live in the south of England, small cul-de-sac in a small village outside Southampton. And for a job, I work in the motor trade. I own my own business. So probably not the lowest risk in terms of job. So I've picked out a few vehicles from a wide variety of segments and just a selection to try and help us. And I've got quotes for me on these vehicles. So we're starting with a VW e-up, one of the smallest little electric cars that's usable. This one's £9,500, 43,000 miles. The best quote I got on it, £235, and you can see the next quote's down £259. The equivalent is a standard petrol 1 litre, not as powerful, also £9,000, so similar price to buy, although this one's lower mileage at 26,000 miles. And you can see that the quote for the insurance on that, £205, going up to £226 for the third cheapest. So straight away, electric car insurance is a bit more expensive. But let's bring in a little bit more context. These are the performance figures for those two vehicles. Now, the petrol one, the 0 to 62 time is 15.6 seconds, and on the electric one, it's 11.9 seconds. So it's clear to see that the electric version of the e-up is considerably more powerful and has much better performance than the petrol counterpart. So what have we got next? I've picked out a Hyundai Kona. I don't know why I'm starting with the petrol one first. This is a 1.6 petrol Hyundai Kona, also on a 21 plate, just under 14 grand, and the best quote I got for that was 345. And interestingly, I found that the electric equivalents were much cheaper for the Hyundai Kona. There's a lot of electric choice out there, but both of these have similar power outputs there or thereabouts, I think. But cheaper car, lower mileage, £368 for the electric one compared to £345 for the petrol one. And again, to bring in a little bit of context, these are the performance figures here. So you can see that the electric one is considerably more powerful at 9.9 seconds compared to the petrol one, only mustering 11.3 seconds. So considerably down on power, and you can see where it really lies. It's in the torque, and that's when a car feels powerful to drive, when you've got good strong torque figures. Okay, the one that everyone loves to hate on, the Tesla Model 3. I didn't pick a performance model. I just went in under 21 plates and kind of went, what are the cheapest ones? And it came back with quite a few dual motor long range ones, which are a lot more powerful than the standard range with just a rear wheel drive motor. And so I got a quote on this one anyway, and it was £555. So a significant uplift over the previous Hyundai Kona, but I wanted to compare it to a petrol equivalent, a 4-door saloon in the similar segment with similar performance. So I found another M3, a Tesla M3 against the BMW M3. They've got about the same amount of power, they've got about the same amount of performance, they're the same size. Interestingly, if you do get similar mileage, the M3 is a lot more expensive. The Tesla actually looks like a massive bargain compared to the M3. But what was I quoted for that? 561. So actually, 555 against 561. There was absolutely nothing in it. Which I found fascinating because everyone always cries that Tesla is so much more expensive than anyone else. And as you can see from the performance figures, on the right-hand side, the BMW, the left-hand side, the Tesla, and you can see that there's nothing in it. And the Tesla has a lot more torque, so it will be a lot more instantaneous and feel a lot more punchy to drive on the road. Moving on to one that I'm round my neck of the woods anyway, this is a very popular electric vehicle. We see loads of these Q4 e-trons, 22 grand for one with 64,000 miles on it, and the quote came in at 434, and I thought that wasn't bad for an Audi, a reasonable mid-size family car. And I compared it to its kind of sibling in the Audi lineup, Q5. This one's a TDI. The diesel I found was just closer in terms of the purchasing cost and also in the performance as well. But interestingly, still 25.5 grand for the Q5 diesel and 22 grand for the Q4 electric. So maybe not what some people would automatically think, that electric may be way more expensive. Anyway, that came in at 431 for the diesel against 434 for the electric. So again, virtually nothing in it. In terms of performance, though, this one was interesting. This is the first one where we see that on the right hand side is the diesel and the left hand side was the electric, and we can see that small motor that they use on the Q4, it's the same with the ID4, ID3. It doesn't have strong punch or torque, and it may be torque limiting as well to try and help with the range, which is something a lot of like Hyundai and Kia are very good at, reducing the electric motor torque to try and eke out the range. But in this case, the turbo diesel is the faster vehicle. But anyway, nothing in the insurance. Moving up into the kind of top end sector now, going up for a Mercedes EQS. For a long time, I don't know if it's still the case, this was the longest range vehicle you could buy in the UK. So this one's 57 grand EQS. It's pretty well loaded. It's got a serious amount of kit on this. So I went through the spec sheet and I can see they've got pretty much everything maxed out. But anyway, you're not here to admire this car that's out of reach for most people. You're here to see that the insurance is only £524, cheaper than a Tesla Model 3, and the value of the car is well over double that. So anyway, this was an equivalent of an ICE vehicle. In performance terms, this was the closest, so I went for an S350D, a vehicle that I know very well, and having driven a few of these, this one is 10 grand less than, well, more than 10 grand less than its electric equivalent, and being an S-Class, it comes fairly well spec'd. But when I went and looked through the spec of this, it was kind of a taxi spec one. In the Mercedes world, we call them poverty spec. But insurance, £660, considerably more than the electric version at 524, which I found interesting. For the little bit of context, the electric version over here, 6.2 seconds to 60, and you can see the 414 miles of range, and on the diesel 6 seconds to 60. So here's a little summary of all of those insurance costs, and you can see that yes, in some cases electric is more expensive, and you can see that yes, in some cases ICE cars are more expensive. And let me know in the comments if you feel I've pulled unfair comparisons. I didn't want to overthink this. I didn't want to over analyze it. These are literally the 10 quotes I got. I didn't get any more quotes. I didn't remove any information. I didn't try and pick and choose. I just thought this was a good spread across various segments of popular vehicles that we see a lot of on the road. Okay, fair enough, not so many of the EQS and S-Class, but we just don't see that many luxury vehicles on the road anyway. But certainly for these four here, all of these are very common, popular cars. And as you can see, the difference in insurance costs are almost nothing. So the difference in the performance, again, there were some shocks there that in some cases we know that electric is considerably more punchy, has that instant torque, but it was interesting to see that in some cases the diesel these two at the end here were both turbo diesels, outperforming their electric counterparts, which I found interesting. Whether that would be the case in the real world, I'd imagine that the electric vehicles would probably still outperform their diesel counterparts with automatic gearboxes and kicking down and all of those kind of things. So I just wanted to kind of bring this into a close and a little bit of a summary to say, don't make any assumptions. And when people say that electric car insurance is sky high and it's one of the downsides of owning electric vehicles, where are they getting that information from? Because I have seen some data that I don't trust, but it's more nuanced than that. Every person has different risk profiles. Every vehicle has a different risk attached to it, different insurance group, and without you personally getting a quote on every single one of the vehicles, there's no point making any assumptions. Just do the legwork. What we also found along the way is that several of these electric vehicles were cheaper than their ICE counterparts to buy outright. Several of them, a couple of them were cheaper on insurance, but interestingly, not all of them were quicker when it came to the performance. So again, another assumption that you can challenge. The data is king. Data gives you power, and you can make better decisions when you actually find out for yourself and don't just listen to any of the crazy media that will just talk down about EVs and spread the usual fear and uncertainty and doubt. Just get a quote. It's a few seconds. As you can see on my little thing here, I just went to confused.com. It saves all of the other details, and so you can just one by one just plug in registration numbers, and I churned out these 10 quotes in, I don't know, 5 minutes, including getting all the stuff from Auto Trader. I hope that's been helpful to you. Come back for another one.